Okay, I'll start. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Hello, hello.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Good. Okay, we're all there. Sorry, it took a minute to catch up, but let's do it, Rockapella. Let me swap out my video. Oops, nope, that's not swapping out my video. That's turning off my video. And pause that guy. You guys should be able to see good. Okay, that looks good. Not see good, but see the things good. Okay, Belvari's not here tonight, and that looks decent. Video capture device needs to go away. All right. Okay. Bonk. 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 There you go. All the bonks you can bonk. Let's get started. This is The Dying of the Light, Season 3 of the Starfall Collective. The Starfall Collective is a collaborative storytelling group using the Dungeons & Dragons game system as a vehicle for creating rich and compelling stories in a fictional world that we've been developing together for a while. You can find out more about the collective, as well as the stories we're telling, at thestarfallcollective.com. We're back with another episode. Let's find out who's in this episode. I'm Sir Robert Burbridge, a father and entrepreneur, and I am the host of this season's story. With me tonight are a few friends playing the characters from this drama. Why don't you say your name, something about yourself if you like, and a brief description of the character you're playing, and we'll start with Josh.
Hello, my name's Josh. I am a web developer and software engineer down here in the South. Tonight I will be playing Inkatink. He is a Kinku and has many voices, but not one.
And Matt?
Hi, I'm Matthew Talamini, writer and web developer based in Providence, Rhode Island. You can find my stuff at MatthewTalamini.com. That's Matthew, Talamini. I play the edgelord, voodoo, shirtless wizard, Diamondback.
Good. And Aaron?
I'm
Erin
Erin
Joy.
Joy. I play Neno. She's happy to get a couple of rest days and happy to have a new best friend, but is not really looking forward to the next phase of her adventure, since it looks like there are no more rest days in the near future.
And she's a forest gnome. A wee
Yep.
little one. Okay. Yoshka, are you here? Jared?
Yeah, I play Yoshka. He grew up as kind of a free-spirited gypsy bard, and after getting separated from his parents, has been recently during this long night, I think, thinking back on the lines in his father's face in a different way.
And Toll? Patrick?
Yes, hello, my name is Patrick. I'm playing the young half-orc Toll, and he's hoping to maybe get to know a little bit of the party a little bit better now that they're not like fleeing their imminent deaths. Get the chance to catch a breather.
Good. So let's get started. Previously, the party finished combat outside Miradau. Miradau, you'll recall, is the basket-shaped town where the party had encountered a number of welcoming and helpful people. It's a very small little hamlet, having only a dozen or so people, including the children. One of the children had gone missing, and the party went and rescued him, Orden, from a slaving orc tribe. They've returned, and after enduring the harsh elements of the false night, they have returned back into the light of day. It's evening, the day before the party departs. In the morning, they're going to leave and find their way to a town, not quite a town, to a place that Yoshka knows about. Excuse me. But before they go, it's still the evening, and Garriott has brought them into his study and had them lay several items on the table. He asked them to lay down from Splint's backpack that he had given to Toll, a small, strange device that was made with metal and wood and stone, with levers and gears and different kinds of things. And to everyone's, and to put that onto the table. While they were there, Belvari also took a chance. Josh has drawn a diagram. And while they were there, Belvari also took a chance and said, "Hey, excuse me, Garriott, I have this strange medallion among my effects, and I don't know where it came from. It just appeared a few days ago. Can you help?" And he looked at it for a few moments and said he wasn't sure what it was, but he had a suspicion. And they set it down to investigate. But he used the machine and asked Belvari for a few drops of his blood. Putting the blood and several specific components into the machine, it produced a number of drops of small drops of black smoking liquid, which some of you will recognize as a potion. A potion. Potions are not common in this world. They don't occur naturally in the forest. They are not things made easily. And as a matter of fact, possibly none of you had ever seen a potion before until Garriott gave you the potions of water breathing to rescue Orden. That said, you may have encountered a potion here and there, and there were certainly people who sold, quote, potions, which really were just fruit juice from some magical plant that had some effect, but not the same thing as what this was. Upon drinking the liquid, Belvari felt a pressure on the back of his neck, kind of guiding him towards something, he knew not what. And as he moved around, he realized it was guiding him towards the medallion. Garriott said that confirmed his suspicion and instructed Belvari to pick up the medallion. And that is where we will pick up the story. So, oh, I knew it, Garriott says. And he looks at Belvari and tells him, "Follow my lead. Follow it now." And Garriott puts his hand on the rounded metal top of his own cane. And it's not a medallion like Belvari's. It's a different kind of thing. But he rests his hand and casts a spell that makes several dancing lights appear in the room. To your surprise, to your complete surprise, he seemed to use no components. Sorry, I've got to pull something up real quickly. I forgot to.
Diamondback is watching this very closely. Can he roll perception to try and figure out how to do that? How to imitate that?
He
And
absolutely. Go ahead.
Inkatink's little head is whipping back and forth from Garriott to Diamondback, watching both of them, trying to figure out still why Diamondback is really excited about what Garriott is doing.
Okay.
He's also trying to
Or
mimic.
better, investigation.
Yeah, I'll let you roll an investigation in this case. It's appropriate for that to switch to that this time.
Nice. Having just gotten my level 4, my intelligence has gone up, and my investigation I now roll at +5.
Wow.
I'm a smart boy wizard. But I got a 12.
And smart though he is unable to figure out anything about what is happening. Surely Garriott had components hidden perhaps in the toe of his shoe and crushed them there. It's a trick, a parlor trick. That,
Parlor trick. But a good one,
but a good one.
and one I would like to learn how to do.
So
can I make my sleight of hand check to imitate it?
do it.
All right, so it's a 17.
So, what do you have on you that's stick-like, walking stick-like, if anything? It could be a sword. It could be anything that has.
Yeah, he does. He has a rapier or something like that.
Okay.
A long pointy stick. Yeah.
So Inkatink puts the tip of the sword, the rapier, to the ground and holds it by the hilt in the exact positions that he sees Garriott using, and he puts his hand and he's almost a mirror of him. Like, it barely a moment passes before he's mimicked the exact action, and he does the exact same thing, looks in the exact same place, but no additional lights. Well, Belvari...
You see him stomp his little foot.
Yeah. Belvari tries to do the same, and nothing appears, and Garriott says to him, "This is something people have a hard time discovering. As a matter of fact, so few people discover it, I don't even think there's common knowledge as to how, but I'll ask you a question, and if it makes no sense to you, that's of course forgivable. What kind of magician are you?" Belvari has no idea, and he only tells him a little bit about his parents, but Garriott, looking him over a few times, takes a guess that perhaps he is a magician, a wizard, the kind of magician who deals with the magics of nature, sometimes called a druid. And so he tells him instead of that, and he takes a couple of components, maybe it looks like 3 or 4 components, so you're not sure what the spell is, but he takes several of them and he rubs them in his hands, and the black mist infuses into his hands and makes veins go up into his arms, and he touches Belvari's temple and says, "Do this." And after a few moments, Belvari nods and understands what to do. He holds the medallion in his hand, and seeming to strain for a few moments, but nothing happening, he presses forward, kind of leaning, unsure of what to do, and behind you, to your surprise, the low burning flames from the fireplace suddenly roar and leap out of the fireplace, and in the middle of the air become a swirl. And Garriott laughs. "Oh, a druid you are, and you can control flames." And Belvari seems to be taxed by it. He's got perspiration on his brow, but he smiles and is himself quite astonished that this happened without him using a single component. Well, Garriott. Sorry, let me stop there for
As
a
soon as
second.
she
I would like
saw
y'all
the
to
flames,
react.
Nino gasped.
Say it again.
As soon as she saw the flames, Nino gasped and dashed to Belvari and grabbed his hand and started patting it where she saw the black lines.
The black
Just-
lines were on Garriott's hand.
Oh.
And he put it to...
Well, she didn't pat Garriott's hand. She patted Belvari's.
Sounds good. Does anybody else have any responses or reactions to that?
I mean, I just saw a magic happen without components. How obvious was it that it was no components?
You're used to seeing... it happens sometimes. Somebody will put a hand into a component pouch and then with their other hand cast a spell. So it's not always obvious, but you can see everything Belvari's doing. One hand has the medallion. He's clearly doing what Gary had instructed, and it appears that both of them just cast componentless magic.
Right.
You hear the voice of a kind of nasally and curmudgeonly older man say, "Unimaginable," out of Inkatink's mouth.
Toll will raise a single eyebrow.
Diamondback is just
please don't get hysterical, Toll.
watching extremely intently.
All right, sorry. I had
Trying to
bring up-
learn from this great master.
So Garriott says, young lady, to you, Nina, I don't know what to say. This device, as I said, it's so rare. Even I don't have one. I, by the way, would gladly pay you for it. But I can tell you what it does. I knew someone once, many years ago, who had one, and he taps his... Sorry. This device is quite rare. I don't know anyone who has it. Even I don't have one. I knew someone once who did. I met him, and he trained me for a while. And then he taps his stick on the ground. Sorry, hold on. Who is it?
Sorry, just me.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Just checking if it was a kid. And he taps his stick on the ground and says, "This is what my potion led me to. It was hard to acquire, but with this, I have been able to do unknown things. I did not expect to meet another." And
I think Inkatink's hands, he's starting to wring his hands aggressively.
Okay. I do not know. I'm surprised I remembered how to operate the machine myself, but I did. Here it is. But, and he rifles through several packets, several little small baskets, envelopes almost, with components, pulling out one or two here and there. And he says, "Ooh, Well, I don't know that I can teach just anyone how to do it. It took me quite a while to learn. It's a very intricate process. It's hard to learn. You saw, it took a while. Is there one of you who you think might be able to learn?"
Me.
You see Inkatink stomp his foot again.
Dibs. Shotgun.
He pushes everyone aside. His pecs are flaming.
Josh. No, I'm sorry, Matt. I was looking at your Google thing. Matt, I'm going to have you roll for this. Sorry, hold on one second.
I'm ready.
I'm pulling up your character sheet. So I'm going to have you roll for this, and I think what I need is... He's going to show you a complex series of actions that are... It takes minutes to... Like more than a minute to do all the little presses and machining. And
boy.
So he has several components that he's pulled out, and he says...
You better believe Inkatink is eyeballing every facet of everything. His eyes are like wild. He's just like... His head's like whipping around, staring at every angle. Keep going.
And he says, I looked in here, and I've only got the right components for this recipe. I've only got the right for maybe 2 more times that I can do it. You could find your own components, of course, but I only have the right combination for twice more. But, young man, since Diamondback volunteered, as with the other, I'll need a few drops of your blood.
Instant. It's instant. In fact, I think that Diamond Black had already offered some blood prior to this, and that blood is probably still, dripping from the cut in his thumb or whatever.
So the same little stone dish that he used to catch Belvari's blood, he wipes clean, and several drips of blood from you, Diamondback, go into it. It's just a small dish that, little concave stone, useful for catching that kind of thing. And
Nino creeps up but takes his hand as soon as he drops it back by his side and wraps a bandage around while he's all distracted.
Okay, good. And Garrett says, it's quite complex. Quite complex.
By the way, Sir Robert,
Yep.
Diamondback has a passive intelligence investigation of 15 and a
Okay.
passive insight of 14. So he should automatically pass any checks
to
or
that level.
situations that have DCs of that level.
Sounds good.
And Inkatink's going to try to emulate him while he does it.
He's going to be just in the air, kind of with no
In
machine.
midair.
But yeah, midair.
In
That
midair.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. My network's just a teeny bit slow, and I forgot to pull up your character sheet, so sorry. Give me a sec. All right. So
Can't do it, Captain. I don't have the bandwidth.
So, your blood, the few drops of your blood are on that dish, and what Garriott does is he grabs the several other components, and a little bit differently than what he did with Belvari, instead of putting them all into the machine at once, he just kind of puts the components into the blood and kind of pushes it around with his finger so that they're all mixed together. Now, he, that is to say Garriott, says, I'm going to show you what these steps are, but I want you to do it. You've got a copy. Pay close attention. It's hard. It's very difficult. And he...
Will it help if I cast the spell that lets you see magic as it's happening, detect magic?
Oh no, this is just a process. It's doable, but the timings matter, and you must watch the little bits and pieces as they move through the gears. And what's happening is the
Yes,
components
sir.
are getting crushed and torn and pulled in different ways, and the blood's dripping out in one spot. It's all happening in a very small box. It's like really a small little device that is concealable, which is interesting. And also the potion that results drops into you've seen this before. It's this little, they're usually hollowed out crystals, so it's a couple inch long crystal with a drilled out seeming hole in the middle, and so it's not like you're not quaffing some large drink, right? This is just a few drops that you need to get into you, and that's how these potions work. So Diamondback, I would like for you to roll me, please, I think the things we need here are... That's a tricky one. I think the things we need here are wisdom and sleight of hand.
Just a straight up wisdom check?
Sorry, was wisdom the one I was thinking of? I was looking at medicine actually, but let's do just a straight wisdom check.
Okay. Because I'm pretty good at wisdom insight.
Yeah, sorry, no. You're looking to understand why he's doing what he's doing when, and he's explaining, but it's a complex process.
Straight wisdom.
And
Here's
sleight
a
of
straight
hand.
wisdom. 14 for the wisdom check.
This is a
And
high DC.
then- and then
Sorry.
sleight of hand is an 11.
Okay. This was a high DC. It's hard process. So he shows you how to do it on a dry run. It's the second time you've watched. You saw him do it once with Avari, but then he puts the components in and he tells you what to do, and he's narrating to you as you do it to help you see what to do. You run through the whole the whole process with a few small missteps, but nothing seems to go terribly wrong. And he says to you, as the drips come out in the end and it fills that little tiny quartz-looking crystal phial, he says to you, well, now's the time when we find out. Let's prove our process. Take a drink.
Diamondback drinks it.
All right.
Like Alice.
Yeah. And you wait for a few moments, and after about 20...
He hears a little girl's voice.
What does it taste like?
No, I think. Wait, can I narrate?
Yeah, do it.
The song that's playing is Jefferson Airplane.
No.
Feed your head. Dum dum da dum dum da dum 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 da dum dum. That's okay. That's just, we'll play that. We don't have the rights to play that, but imagine that.
Inkatink starts making a bass drum sounding little tone down below. Dum, 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 dum,
That's
dum,
live stream only.
dum.
I'll cut that all in post.
No.
So you drink it. A tense few moments fills the room. It's 5 seconds pass, 10 seconds. But right around 20 to 30 seconds, you realize you don't feel anything. It didn't seem to work.
You see a blush rise to Diamondback's cheeks, and he says, "It didn't work. Let's do it again, one more time."
And Gary, it says,
"I'll get it this time."
Young man, I've got only one set of components left. I think.
Now,
sorry, go ahead.
And Yoshka steps in too and says, I think everyone would benefit if Grandma could heal us a little more. We've seen some friends come and go.
Yoshka, y'all have been resting and healing for several days, remember, during the false night?
Oh, I just meant, if she could do that regularly with healing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I understood what he meant, yeah.
Yep, my fault. I'll cut that in post as well.
Inkatink's feet are he's hopping up and down rapidly on his feet, and then as soon as Yoshka says that, he stops and he's like, he kind of nods to himself yeah, not dying would be nice.
And
Your
Garrett
healing
says,
magic will have strong strategic importance for the party.
Garrett says, well, I've only got one more. Honestly...
Tell me, what are the ingredients? I will go and fetch more.
To tell you the truth, thank you, young man. I appreciate your earnestness, as always. But to tell you the truth, this young fella right here, and he nods towards Inkatink. He says, he's been copying what I'm doing exactly. I think he might be the one to teach this. Maybe he can teach you all the rest later. But if it's okay with you, I'd like to give him a try.
Diamondback is
Inkatink's feet
vibrating.
are humming on the ground. They're moving so fast they're a blur.
I think you probably see Diamondback just turn on his heel and walk to the end of the room and stand just facing the wall. You can see an enormous amount of tension in his bare shoulders with the fire above "Urgh!"
So,
dude, your guy cannot catch a break. He's Edith from Downton Abbey. You're flipping Edith. Oh my word.
So something you guys should know, the players should know. Sorry, go ahead, Yoshka.
Yoshka goes over, he takes off his winter vest and puts it over Diamondback's shoulders as he tries to comfort him and pat him on the back.
A shirt? You think I want a shirt right now? You don't even know me at all.
You don't know me.
The shirt is on the floor in an instant. It's,
Diamondback proves alone and shirtless, sir.
it's
Yoshka lets it fall and doesn't pick it up.
So, something that you players should know that your characters probably don't know. You have not, if you recall, we can talk more about this later, but Inkatink is a weird looking guy to you guys. You don't understand exactly what he is. He's a creature that you've heard stories about that you consider to be unnatural or perhaps like a ghost or something, but clearly he's not. But Garriott seemed to be friendly towards him and was welcoming him in. And you all, he helped you survive and you helped him survive. So there you go. One of the things you can know about the Kenku is they have a very difficult time creating things on their own. They don't make anything up. They don't create new things, but they can mimic perfectly. So that's why he speaks the way he does. He's a mimic, like a crow, right? So that's what Garriott, knowing that, is offering Inkatink an opportunity because he has seen a few Kenku before and knows that they're excellent mimics of anything. They can make things, they can, that sort of thing. So he nods at Inkatink and says, if no one objects, I'd like to give this young fella a try.
Inkatink's head is making
I,
eye contact with every single person in the party once every 0.7 seconds.
Father, I wouldn't disagree with you, but the voices of Splint and Golb and Sleen are crying out. We're a fragile group. We're not trained for adventures.
So
these eyes aren't what they used to be. I think if I'm the next one to get trained, we're not. These aren't the right hands to be in. I think we should try those feather hands.
Okay. Yoshka, I didn't quite catch what your point about that.
we got dead people already because we couldn't heal well enough. He wants her to be able to do the magic.
Yep. Sorry, that was a great way to say it. And again, I will cut my confusion in post. So, okay. And he looks over at Toll and says, now you, young man, you're the one who brought it in. It's up to you.
Who is he talking to?
Toll.
Toll.
I'd like to do whatever has the greatest chance of success, and our bird friend seems to be quite good at imitation.
Indeed. And
You hear quite good at intimidate. Quite good at replication. I tried to say intimidation and I tripped
imitation.
up. Imitate. Quite good at imitation. I still can't do it. But you hear it it sounds exactly like his voice, perfectly deep and gravelly like an orc's, but coming out of this tiny little, he's under 5 feet tall. He's hunched down.
So he wipes the little stone cup, the stone dish clean and says, a few drops of blood?
Yeah, I think he just stabs his wrist with his beak, and you see some blood come out.
Okay. He takes the last several components, and you see it's 3 components that he's using. He takes the last several components, and he puts them in, and he says to Inkatink, all right, now, we're going to put these in here, and I'll show you what to do. And before he even finishes, Inkatink is on it. He's a third of the way through the process. And he's doing the stuff, and Garriott's surprised and it almost objects.
I think he's doing it at exactly the same speed that Garriott did it the last time. Like, exactly the same speed.
That's right. And Garriott starts to object. You can hear him take some breath in to speak, and then he just decides to wait. After a minute, Inkatink has finished, and the little file is back under there. It has this kind of smoking liquid potion coming out of it, and he says, well, let's give it a try.
Inkatink throws his head all the way back, and you see this. I even you see him. And he,
Nice.
I'm working on it. It's a work in progress.
It's great.
Nice beak.
We'll see. Yeah. So I look like a toucan. Anyway, so yeah, he takes it. And I need to make you. Can I make an argument that I have to make one check because the sleight of hand part is just so. Second nature.
Yeah, I was actually going to give you on this particular one with sleight of hand because you've seen the process several times.
Okay.
I was going to tell you to make it with double advantage.
Okay. It's still only an 18 because 2 of those were 4s, but.
Okay. What's your sleight of hand bonus?
Say
5.
plus 5.
Okay.
So 18 plus 5 is 23.
It was a 20 was the DC. So.
Okay.
You all wait again a few more tense moments, and after just about 10-15 seconds, you see Inkatink is frozen, motionless himself, waiting to see what will happen. And you see the feathery... Sorry, you see the little feather kind of plates. It's like hard feathers on his scalp start to sort of flutter a little bit. And going down the back of his neck, they're making this sort of motion, almost as though his skin is like twinging or crawling a little bit. He's got goosebumps, something like that. And a whole bunch
of... quillions are pointing?
Yeah, they're just quivering. And it kind of ripples down you a few times. And your shoulders kind of move and you start doing that. And like with Belvario, though you don't know this, none of you know this, Inkatink, you start feeling this pressure down both sides of the back of your neck. Not the center part, not your spine, but down both sides. It's like someone's gently massaging down, and then it starts pushing forward, and you feel it pushing you in a certain direction. And as a matter of fact, the general direction you feel it pushing you is northward, which is approximately the same direction, which is to say, like Belvari did, around the table. What would you like to do?
Follow it.
You walk around the table, as Belvari did, and you seem to be continuing to follow it, and there's only 8 or 10 steps you can take, but by the time you reach the northern wall of Garriot's room, it's still pushing you north. The stone wall won't let you go any further. And Garriott chuckles a little bit. It did work indeed, I can tell. Well, let me give you, young'uns, an understanding of how this goes. Now, the potion itself will only last for a few hours. It'll wear off. You just got to make another one. And I don't know where or what the item is for you. I actually don't know exactly how it works, but here's what I think. I think in all the jungle, there are some things that can allow some people to cast spells without components. And I think when you drink the potion, because you mix your own blood with it, it pulls you towards the nearest such thing in the jungle. Of course, I never verified it. I don't know. That's just how I think this goes. But here's why. The recipe I learned from the man who taught me many, many years ago. Here are the magics you need. You take a few drops of the blood of the person you're searching for. The persons you're searching for. You need the spell that lets you locate objects. Makes sense to me. You need that kind of spell you've all used plenty of that lets you detect the magics. And here's the one that's harder. You don't see many of these, but they're around. They're around. There's a kind of spell. Some people call it Find the Path. And it shows you how to get where you're going. And those are the three. Locating of objects, detecting of magics, and finding of paths. You mix those with a few drops of the blood and put it in this here contraption, and it makes you a potion. Sometimes it'll be more than a day's journey. Sometimes it'll be like this young feller, and he points to Belvari, just right with you the whole time. No way of knowing until you find out.
Diamondback is by Inkatink's side, with a very different attitude, saying, "Well, if the potion only lasts for another hour or so, we should set off. Come, Inkatink.
Yes.
Let's go."
It's nighttime right now. It has gotten to be dark. Remember, you were going to come in and remember you were going to come in and rest until you take off first thing in the morning. As it happens, by the way, first. And Garriott hears you say that and says, well, hold on. I think it might be wiser for you to be pursuing this end from a position of stability. And he looks over at Yoshka and says, Yoshki, I'm going to give you the directions to the place you're seeking. Is it time?
I love
you
that
ready?
he calls him Yoshki.
You tell me, Father.
Well,
Should
it's
we
time.
go?
I can't invite you to stay here. Not that I wouldn't, but the bell will be back, and the bigger the town, the more the trouble. I got to protect my folk. But we can do it.
Is there a better place to go that doesn't glitter?
And he taps Yoshka with it. Garriott uses his cane. He reaches up because Yoshka's tall for Garriott. Garriott's a halfling. He reaches up and taps him on the shoulder and he says, "You're a smart young man." He says, "No, I think if you're going to find your family, it's probably the rightest way to go."
Okay.
And he says, there's two things you're going to need to learn how to get there. The first is you're going to need some directions. Here they are. Now, I told you it ain't too far away, but it also ain't too near. It's a couple weeks' travel. But there's good news. The teleportation circle I got outside the town, I can get you partway there. It goes to a place I know, a grove of sorts, kind of an opening in the woods, and it doesn't go much. It goes wherever, but that's the nearest one I know to get you to your friends up there. And he says, he says, that I think will knock off a good, maybe 10 days travel. Maybe you got another 10 after that. Shouldn't take you too hard. But, be careful. There's some towns on the way, perhaps. See what you see. I just don't know what the effects of the night that we just had are. So everything's different. But here's what you need to know. And he gives you a sequence to remember. And he just basically says, after you go through the circle, you'll find several different key landmarks. And he tells you about, a boulder standing, with some trees growing on it. He tells you head north and there's going to be a ravine and you got to go along it for a little bit and so forth. He gives you these instructions and he says, and last, not least, here's what you're going to need. You're going to see these mosses all over my walls. And he's got stone walls, cobblestones, with moss growing on them. And he says, these mosses, why, Whew, I'll tell you, they aren't native to these parts. Matter of fact, I don't know where they are native to, except maybe far underground. They were given to me by them ones you like to call the old bloods. Them fellers out there. Now, they didn't give them directly, of course. I mean, they stay in their place. But a couple of years ago, 6 months ago, I don't remember. It's been a little while. I think your kin came through here, Yoshiki, and they brought me that barrel you saw outside in the square. And they also brought me these mosses. And these mosses, these are the kinds of mosses that hide the magic once they've had time to grow. This quiet moss. You can tell your friends more about it if you like, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, it reminds me of my caravan.
Indeed. And these old bloods, I think what they do is they get it from their caves deep underground, where they hide from the Iron Bell, perhaps. And they send it with the barrels, and they sent me some. Well, I'll tell you, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take a scoop of that magical, let's call it liquid. It's sure not a potion. That magical liquid. You're going to need to take it with you. And when you get to a grove of trees that are on top of a rocky dome, that's the entrance. That's the place. And you're going to need to spill your cup of whatever that is out onto the ground of the rocky dome. And then you'll see what you need to see to find your folk. To find your friends, at least. I don't know if your kin are going to be there. But that's how you'll get to where you're going. That's how you'll meet the people you're wanting to meet. Does it make sense?
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Well, I want you guys to get some sleep. But before we do, and he eyes Diamondback. Diamondback, what are you doing right now?
Diamondback is taking all this in, listening intently.
But before we do, is there anything else you want to ask me? Diamondback.
Yes, of course. 1,000 questions.
And he laughs.
A million.
He laughs and he goes, and he picks up his cane and he taps Gulb's book that's still sitting on the side of the table.
Oh, yes. Matthew had forgotten this, but, and actually...
I figured Diamondback probably had too.
The DM will have to tell me whether this is appropriate, but when I created Diamondback's character, because he's a wizard, he gets some extra languages, and one of the extra languages is Orc. So I might be able to read this book, but it's unlikely that I would know written Orc.
Mm-hmm.
It's giant.
Actually, it's not giant.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, that's fine. If you want it to be, yeah.
I have a...
What is it? Because I know Elvish, Orc, and Undercommon.
Let me tell you what Gold believes. Gold believes it's giant.
There you go.
Okay.
Gold's truth. Gold's truth is.
So, Diamondback, have you looked through the book at all? I guess you just pulled it out of the box for the first time, maybe? Because you just got it off of Gulb.
Yeah, we this is the first time we've been able to slow down and do anything that's not urgent. So yeah, we're in this. We came into this room to examine stuff.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, hey, I'll get out this book. Maybe it's a spell book. Maybe I can learn spells from it. Maybe I can learn magic or assassination technique or military tactics or something useful.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to flip through the book before Garriott tells you anything about it? Before he takes a look at it?
I definitely would.
Okay.
Would Toll recognize anything about it being half orc?
You're welcome to take a look at it. I will narrate. If you narrate what you do, I'll narrate what happens.
So
Toll
Diamondback
will-
is standing there when Garriott indicates that the book might be something of interest. Diamondback's on it. Diamondback picks up the book. He's flipping through it, sort of holding it up.
And what languages
And
do you
Toll
know?
will just glance at him as he does this.
Toll is glancing at him.
Yeah, just curiously.
Mhm.
I guess if he recognizes the cover of the book, he'll look more closely. But
Diamondback knows Common, Elvish, Orc, and Undercommon, but it's likely that he's only literate, can read and write in only like some sort of secret, illegal Snake Clan phonetic alphabet that is probably different from the alphabets any of those languages use.
The Elvish one you can know if you encounter an elf. After you encounter Elvish writing. We're specifically in a part of the world where there's no elves,
Right.
just to tell you. Okay.
Oh, so my character doesn't know that at all?
Doesn't know that at all until you encounter some elves. You could pick a different language. That's one of the restrictions was it should be a language from this area, or it could be some kind of stranger language, and then we could work it in somehow.
Cool.
You pick up the book and it doesn't make meaningful sense to you. You flip through. It's got probably about 60 or 80 pages. It's it's old. Old for the kinds of things you find in the jungle, but it's been well tended, taken care of. It clearly was important to Gulb's people. Toll, do you want to take a look?
yeah, I think his interest would be determined by how much he recognized it early on, like the outside, if it was something that caught his eye or seemed familiar.
It does not seem familiar at all.
Okay, then he's probably not. I mean, he'll pay attention to it because Diamondback is a spectacle, but
Yeah.
I think he would be more focused on the act than the book.
Yeah. So Garriott says, Diamondback. So you flip through the book for a moment and you don't seem to understand anything out of it. What you do see, Diamondback, is most of the pages have some kinds of writing. It's not seeming to be a long narrative. There are pictures and diagrams of things. Some of them probably are plants. Some of them you can't really tell what they are. A few of them look like things you can't quite recognize. Some of them look like hills, perhaps, or mountains, but with no trees on them. You're not exactly sure what this is. If you'd like to ask Garriott anything in particular, go for it.
Yes, I will ask Garriott. I'm afraid I have not got the lore to understand what is written in this book. But if you know it to be important in some way, please tell me what you know.
And Garriott pulls the book over. Ooh, let me look. And you recognize you've interacted with him enough by now that you know that that's not something like where he's saying, "Ooh, this is interesting." He's more saying like, "I have no idea what this is. Let's take a look. Let me see if I can figure it out." And he flips through quite a few pages. You wait for a good 3 or 4 minutes while he's flipping through the pages and gently running his fingers over things. Did we just lose Patrick? Okay. And he's gently running his fingers over things. And he traces out a few of the diagrams and he runs his hands over some of the text. Sorry, if you hear me repeating myself, it's because just total sidebar that doesn't matter at all. I just finished editing episode 5. I spend about 6 hours per episode. Episode 5 took me 30. It was so much talking over and whatever, and also the audio quality was really bad. So like the stream cut out a few times and I was like, "Durr!" So anyway, Just to say, that's why I'm repeating myself, because I'm like, oh, that's gonna be hard to edit.
So Robert, I would love for us to have a high quality podcast output from this, but 30 hours is too much time, and that's why none of our other content has been podcasted that way.
5 was the wrong one. Oh, sorry, 30 was the crazy one. Episode 5. The others have only taken me about 6 hours each, including, by the way, now I've finished 5 and 6.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'll drop those soon. But anyway, I was letting you know why I'm repeating myself a little bit weirdly and sometimes repeating y'all a little bit.
So Robert, you need to get a sound effect of like people screaming and swords clashing, and just play that at any random. What?
I'll just record that in my living room tomorrow.
Yeah, and then play that at any random moment. Do whatever kind of editing sin you need to commit, and then just play again. Just go.
That's right. Okay, so Gary.
Also, if it's helpful, like I wouldn't mind if we're all game for it. Like I wouldn't mind just if re-saying some parts if they're crucial, or just like re-recording them.
Sure, that could be really good. Also, I might say, since I'm trying to think in terms of podcast first, which is to say, we're having fun playing the game, but we're making something to share, right? I might say some things like, if there's a lot of talking over because everybody's excited, which is totally great, by the way, I might say, okay, so let's recap or something like that, and then we can just re-say what we just said, except without the overlaps. Good? Not every time, but sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Gary takes the book and he's flipping through, thumbing through, and after a while he says, "Oh, I got something interesting here. I don't encounter something like this very much. I'll tell you though." And he leans in close. "I got no idea what this is." And he says,
Yes, fine, very well. And Diamondback takes back the book and puts it away, and he says, "Yoshka, we have many things to discuss. Firstly, I do not trust this man's teleportation with the Dryads. That's how we lost. What's her name? The one character who died.
Delana.
We
Davina.
lost
Davina
by an encounter with this man's teleportation and the Dryads, and plant creatures killed the crazy flute slave half-wit. I think that this man is a great master of magic, but such great masters often he looks askance a little bit at man. I'm forgetting everybody's name. He looks askance at Garriott a little bit, and then he says, "Such great wizards often make pacts with evil forces which even they may not be able to fully control. I think his teleportation is dangerous. I suggest we stay close by in the area. We use this artifact and find the ingredients, the magics that we need to be able to equip ourselves with the ability to cast spells without, and get ourselves up to our highest level of effectiveness while staying in the relative safety of the immediate area before we set off on any foolish quest far away from here where we are very likely to be killed by trees."
Inkatink is right next to him and just points at Diamondback and just points at him.
And Garriott lets Diamondback do his long soliloquy there, and just sits in his chair, seeming unoffended, but it was certainly a personal slight if he were to take umbrage. But Garriott says, "Well, you young kids do what you like, of course. I'm just aiming to set you on your way. I will tell you, I do know one thing about your book that you was quick to take, but I don't need to tell you if you don't want. Well, you got what you need. I'm very happy for you to keep resting in our town." And he looks at Diamondback and he says, "And I'm sorry that your feathered friend got what you wanted." With sort of a chuckle, a sort of like, kids today. And he says, "So
great master, I the sayings of the wise are often riddles, but you said earlier that you knew nothing of the book, and now that you know something of the book, I'm unable to penetrate this mystery. Can you enlighten me? Is it a deep secret of magic?
I know nothing of the book, but I know something of something I just saw in the book.
So he just recognized something in the book that Gulb was carrying around.
Yeah, Diamondback will hold it back out to him, start paging through it.
Gary says, I ain't playing
Information
tricky.
is power.
I'm just telling you what I'm telling you. You want me to show you? I don't mind.
Please.
He takes the book and he flips and he turns to Yoshka and he turns to Neno, in particular Yoshka and Neno. And he flips through, and somewhere, ballpark halfway through, he's not like finding halfway. He's just like in the middle of the book somewhere. And
by the way, Neno has what's his face by the hands, and she's put some bandages on him. And so I'm just saying she walks away from Inkatink having bandaged up his wrist over to join you guys.
Mm-hmm. And he says to Neno, I saw you outside praying during the fight, and that's a kind of praying I know about. A little bit. I know about your people, indicating your sort of religious bent. And he has the book on the felt, and he spins it around, and he says, I think maybe this looks familiar to you. And Neno, it's a symbol that you've seen before, but it's different than you've seen, but it's certainly the symbol of water and earth that makes sense to you, even though it's different than the one you're acquainted with.
Nino immediately bursts into tears, big drops falling on the ground, and she gets down to the ground and rubs them into the dirt and then stands right back up again.
And he says, yes, indeed. Yeah, no, I don't know what it means. I'm just showing you that I saw what you were doing, and I see something like it here in this book. That's all I know about that. And then he flips 2 more pages, and there's a very similar symbol. And as a matter of fact, and I think Diamondback, you'll recognize this. If I'm not mistaken, Diamondback, you took one other trophy from Gulb. Is that right?
Oh yes, I have a scrap of his skin that has a tattoo, and I would also remember it because he put that tattoo on me, but temporarily, and it's washed off by now.
Mm-hmm.
I also sewed that in mirror image into one of my layers of skirt.
Yeah, and it's actually has some things in common with your symbol, Neno. It has a similar water shape, but it doesn't seem to have the earthy kind of part of it. It has like lightning or like electricity and water in it. But he flips a couple of pages, and there's a diagram with that symbol on it that, Diamondback, as you were flipping through quickly, you just didn't happen to notice. There's no reason. It just, was there. And he says, he flips it around and he shows it to Neno and Yoshka and Diamondback and says, this one I saw on your big orc friend. And he points in and he says, so here's what I can tell you. It's got 2 religious symbols on a couple of pages, and hers, pointing to Neno, hers showed that kind of hill shape, and his right here, it's on a stone. And the stone, and what it is a diagram of, let me just describe it this way. It's almost an obelisk, not quite an obelisk. It's a little fatter and narrower. It's kind of a cross between a diamond shape and but it's stretched really tall like an obelisk, and it has that symbol drawn on it that Gulb had on his chest. And he says, and then that whole obelisk-ish sort of shape is over or on or something that looks like it might be a mound with a circle around it. it's hard to tell exactly what it is because it's not like a detailed drawing. It's, big line sketches. And he says, here's the only thing I can tell you. I've seen this in my scrying. It's been a long time. I honestly couldn't tell you where. But somewhere in the north, I've seen this shape. I've seen a stone like this. And it didn't look like it was on no hill or nothing. It looked like maybe it was, I don't know, in the woods on a river or something, maybe a pond or something. But I seen the symbol up in the north, so somehow you all is connected. And he closes the book and gives it back and says, but I can't read none of the writing, and honestly, I can read a lot of writing.
No. Would it help you in any way if you were to keep hold of the book and perhaps study it? We can't hear you. You're muted, I think.
Boys, come
Somewhere.
here. And she grabs them, all that she can reach by the sleeves, and hustles them over to the corner of the room, out of earshot of Garriott. Air quotes on the out of earshot.
He does not try to follow. He gives you privacy.
And says, boys, they saved us. They put us up through the dark night. They're sending us out rich with treasures and wisdom. We can't leave them empty-handed when we go, no matter how we go, no matter how far we go. We have nothing of value that we didn't get from them, from Garriott. But we do have this book. Can I propose we leave it with him?
Neno, you actually, all of you may be less acquainted with this, which was perhaps a personal matter between Garriott and I. However, when we came, we did bring him something of almost inestimable value to him.
Orden?
And yeah.
Orden is a sweet
Aside-
boy, but he is no.
Wait a
no
minute,
payment
we're
for the protection
sleepers?
we've got.
No, he's collect. There's the most powerful spell in the game, Wish, and he had like, I forget how many. He had some number of the components that he would need to cast it, and we brought him one more.
Are you telling her this? Are you telling Neno?
Yeah, I inform Neno that we brought Garriott.
Will you tell her as Diamondback?
Sure. So have you ever heard tell of the spell Wish?
Oh, I thought
Perhaps
that was
in
a
old
myth.
stories.
I thought that was a myth.
It is not. Mr. DM, I, Matthew, don't remember how many components of the spell Garriott has and how many I gave him.
Diamondback would remember clearly that he
Right.
had six. He had 6 of them already. Diamondback gave him the 7th, and his comment at the time was, "This is something you only find once every few decades."
Yeah, so, and he needs 10 because it's a level 9 spell.
He also commented at the time that he has no hope of casting it. As far as the power of the skill, at least that's what he claims.
It's a spell like any other spell, Neno, and I don't know if I or you or even Garriott himself could cast it, but with 10 of the right magics, it could be cast. And this great sage had 6 of them when we came here, and I gave him the 7th. We've made him a great deal richer already. However, I'm in favor if you wish to leave the book with him. His house is a repository of a great many magical artifacts and powerful things and much knowledge. It would be a good place for the book to stay.
You hear Inkatink say, It belongs in a museum.
And
So the
I
only
think-
ones who owe him the debt are those who joined after we left after you arrived in the basket, this amazing hospitable basket village.
I don't think, like, what can a son give his father? I think he is our people, and we are doing the same thing. Let's ask him if he wants to keep it, and maybe it is better with him, maybe it is better with us. He will know.
She
The man
shrugs.
saved our
She's-
lives.
Say that
I
again,
say
Toll.
we do whatever. He saved our lives. I say we do whatever we can to show our thanks.
Yes.
And Nino shrugs. She doesn't feel herself released from any debt. But if she has to pay the debt on her own, that's fine.
I think what we can pay him is yet to be done. We don't have much to give right now, but we may.
I think Inkatink is just pacing back and forth next to the door at the exit to the room and just kind of like hopping up and down and walking left, walking right, walking around in a circle while facing in the same direction.
And I feel what you are feeling, but I don't think it is a debt. It is a different bond.
Where you go, I go.
But that sounds good. Toll, will you offer it to him?
Certainly. So, is everybody agreed on giving him the book?
Well, I think he will know if we should take it or if he should.
I'm
Fair
willing.
enough. All right, Toll will grab the book and walk over to Garriott and say, "We would like you to have this if you would like to take it. It's perhaps the best way we can say thank you. We don't have much. I personally was a slave not that long ago."
Oh, and Garriott, who has been sitting and just doing who knows what, his own thing, right? He's at his own desk, has been doing stuff while he's waiting. He looks up at Toll and he stands up on his chair, which seems to be common for him to be, roughly eye to eye with some of the taller folk. And he says, "Oh, well, I do appreciate your generosity, you young folks." And he thinks about it for a minute, and you see him also being sort of, actually, you know what? All of you roll me an insight check.
16.
16 for Toll as well.
15.
20. The 18s are rolling strong for me tonight.
All right. Everybody except Neno, who got a 5. 15 was the DC for
And
this.
that was with a +4.
What?
Everybody except Neno sees him, and your best guess is good-naturedly. He's not duplicitous at all in this, but sees him sort of glance over at the potion machine and says, "Well, you young folks are so generous. I appreciate it for sure. For sure I do. Let me tell you, honestly, I don't know what I would do with a book like this. It's trouble for the bell, and I can't read a lick of it. But I think maybe if y'all are going up north anyway, because that's where Yoshki's group is, maybe you're gonna come nearer this than I am. I'm too old to travel. I'm getting towards the end of my days, and he kind of winks a little bit at Diamondback. And some of you will notice that the implication of this is that he heard some of the things you were saying. But he said, and you're right that I do have a few meager magical items here in my humble home. But I'll tell you, I inherited them from my teacher before me, and I expect someone else will inherit them after me. But I'm not going to be traveling to wherever this book is from. So why don't you guys keep the book with you? But I'll ask you this. Do let me keep it for the night, and I'll copy some of the more interesting ciphers and some of the more interesting pictures so I can study them later.
Sir.
Yo-
Yoshka can talk.
Yoshka speaks up and says, and, well, would you keep this potion maker safe for us? I don't think we can use it quite yet. And as he says it, he also glances over at the other people. Says,
I think Inkatink runs over, and jumps up to snatch it out of your hand. I don't think he even asks. I think he's so wound up. He just kind of runs and jumps and grabs onto it, makes eye contact with you, and he's got his fingers hovering over it, and he's not touching it, and he's just kind of staring at you.
And Inkatink still feels the effects, just to let y'all know. He still feels the sort of both physical and psychic kind of pressure towards this thing he's being steered towards.
In the voice of a little girl, Inkatink says,
I think people should have more turns.
If this only lasts for a few hours, we are not strong enough to make it go again. Who can find the path?
It only requires
seems
finding the
capable.
correct.
Sorry, Toll first.
I said the bird seems capable.
Featherfingers has this.
Diamondback.
It only requires finding the correct ingredients. Along with the bird, we should be able to perform the ritual. Further, if the potion machine stays here, I will too.
At this, Garriott breaks in and says, well, I love your company, to be sure. But as I said, we can't keep any more people here. It's too dangerous for my folk, for my people. So I guess it'll have to stay with you. So just, I appreciate it, Yoshki. And he looks, obviously, at Yoshka. Says, I appreciate it, and I am mighty tempted. But let me just have the book for the night to copy some stuff for an old man to study. And that'll be good for me. You don't owe me nothing. You've already given me plenty, eyeing Diamondback.
Well, thank you, old man. I hope we can give you something later. Maybe a better world.
Maybe so. Maybe so. All right, well, let's get you to bed. And I'll see you in the morning. I'm going to take a look through your book here.
If the others leave, Diamondback will stay behind for a chat.
Gentlemen, I believe this party is winding down. Who's up for the next party?
And as before, Garriott goes over and has a few magic components in his hand. rubs them together, and traces those same symbols you've seen him do on the inside of his study. And you hear click, click, click as several of the symbols that he draws seem to make things lock or unlock. And he opens up the door to the outer part of his house. Remember, y'all are in this little study of his. And he says, you're welcome to same sleeping accommodations you had at other people's homes last night. Or, of course, here where you're here the first night, you can sleep here in my extra bedroom over there. And, there's a hay mattress and, cot and stuff like that. Make yourselves at home, and I'll see you in the morning, I guess. And he's happy, he's friendly.
Thank you. Good night. And I'll head out of his hut and go off to the other place I've been staying.
Okay.
Yeah,
Neno
Toll will go
follows-
back to his accommodations.
Neno
I have a
follows
question.
Yoshka, but only gets as far as the barrel
Say
and then
it again.
stops it. Nena follows Yoshka, but only gets as far as the barrel and then stops and stares down into the water or liquid or whatever it is.
Yeah, the barrel is sealed, but you can see into it too. When I say sealed, it's covered, I should say, but you can see into it.
Does the party know Inkatink's name?
Not yet.
I didn't think so. Okay.
Inkatink?
I just wanted to make sure it made sense for me to call him Bird.
Yeah, that was good. I liked that.
Anybody who has a passive insight higher than 12 has probably noticed that every time somebody calls him a bird, his feathers kind of puff a little bit.
I don't.
And Diamondback and Inkatink, what do you do?
I think Inkatink walks over to Diamondback. I don't know if Diamondback is still standing in the corner, edge lording it next to the fireplace.
No.
But Inkatink goes over to him and is kind of like hopping up and down on one foot and then the other, and just kind of freezes and looks at him side-eyed and says,
Can you help me?
Friend, I will. I would like a word with the master. I'll meet you outside in a few minutes.
he shakes his head and runs outside.
Great sage. And Diamondback faces Garriott and drops down on both knees in front of him and says, Sir, if you have need of an apprentice or a servant, even a bootblack, someone to sweep your floors, take me.
And Garriott he responds slowly with what appears to be something like earnest appreciation for your zeal. Like he's respecting your experience of this. And he's, quite a few times older than you. So, he understands what's happening here. And he says, well, young man, I'm not looking for an apprentice quite yet, but I'll tell you what. Why don't you come back to me in a few years, if you're still interested, and we'll see what we can see. But I want to ask you to think about this question I have, and come back in a couple of years if you know the answer. You ready? And we'll take our 10-minute break.
I just want to point out in perpetuity, anytime he wants to hear this, Inkatink will quote it to him in exactly his voice because Inkatink is hiding right around the corner and is a sneaky little son of a gun. And if he snaps a twig, it's probably going to be embarrassing.
So we'll take our 10-minute break and be back at 9:15, let's call it, and finish our thing. Let me pull up my boilerplate so I have a good audio clip of the outro. That's where we'll end this episode. Thanks for listening. You can get more details about the world and the story we're telling at thestarfallcollective.com.
We've been coming at you live from downtown. kiss your mother with that mouth?
I do not, I don't think. We don't. I hug her. Okay. This is The Dying of the Light, Season 3 of the Starfall Collective. The Starfall Collective is a collaborative storytelling group using the Dungeons & Dragons game system as a vehicle for creating rich and compelling stories in a fictional world that we have been developing together for a while. You can find out more about the collective as well as the stories we're telling at thestarfallcollective.com. We've got our usual group of players here tonight, minus one or two. Okay, great. We are back with another episode. Let me do a quick introduction of our characters so we can jump into the action. I am Sir Robert Burbridge, a father and entrepreneur, and the host of this season's story. With me tonight are a few friends playing the characters in this drama. We have Matthew Talamini at Matthew Talamini, TALAMINI.com. You can find his interesting stories and stuff there. He plays Diamondback, the shirtless wizard who is a friend for all seasons. We have
Certainly a friend for more than 72 hours, which is not the basic threshold of participation in this group. So
that's right. We have Josh, who plays Inkatink, the crow-like bird person who...
That is so prejudiced.
All right. Who is the party's nimble mimic. We have Aaron Joy playing Neno, a grandmotherly sort who is tending to the needs of the party. Yoshka, who has become the leader of the party, at first de facto and now perhaps implicitly or explicitly the leader, recognized by everybody as well. And Patrick playing Toll, a former slave who has joined the party recently with another former slave who recently died. And they are readying themselves to leave town and get on their way. Let's get started. Previously, Garriott showed these fine folk some of the mysteries of the items they have found in their travels and has sent them off to get a good night's rest before going on their way. They are looking to go to the place called the place of what Yoshka calls the Old Blood. He knows them as a kind of enclave or compound of sorcerers who provide a resistance to the tyranny of the Iron Bell in this area. Yoshka's own people, the wayfarers of his troop, worked with the old blood to provide peaceable towns with barrels full of this magic fluid that the old blood produces. These barrels enable towns to mask themselves from the view of forces like the Iron Bell who would seek to take advantage of them. So they're about to leave and go on their way. Diamondback has held back for just a moment and implored Garriott to consider taking him on as an apprentice, as someone who may someday be able to take over Garriott's mission, whatever that may be, when the time comes for Garriott to go to wherever he may go when he passes from this forested world. We pick up with Garriott saying to Diamondback, "So, come back in a couple of years when you've had a chance to think about this question. And it's a hard one. It's a good one. You ready?"
Yes.
Don't answer me now. This is a question worth pondering. Here it is. For whom should we kill? And for whom should we die? That's the question. So, why don't you go have a good night's rest? And I'll see you in the morning, and then the gods be willing, I'll see you again sometime. Okay, young feller?
As he ushers Diamondback out, Diamondback is trying to ask him questions about the ingredient list that he told us for the potion making artifact. Like, I'm trying to pump him for even more information, and I'm guessing he's just shoving me out the door, and I'm, what about such and such, and where can such and such be found, and
Now that's a great question.
How would one best go about?
That's right. No, that's a great question, young man. Let me think here. As y'all take several more paces away, and he says, "You know what? I'll get back to your first thing about some of those if I can recall." And he goes back into his room, and you hear tick, 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 as the door latches.
Diamondback.
Smooth.
I guess he's locked himself in his study, and I'm in the outer room.
That's right.
Okay, so Diamondback, and he did offer us to sleep in this same house.
Yeah, there's a bed and some hay and stuff.
Okay, so Diamondback is going to gather up whatever bedding, and he's going to set it up just outside the study door and lie down there and go to sleep.
Okay.
Not so that Garrett will actually trip over him or not be able to open the door, but so that he might trip over him.
Okay. So it is just after dawn.
I think Inkatink just leaves and goes and follows on his own.
Yeah, Diamondback has forgotten that he was going to talk with Inkatink. That's gone.
Okay. So it's just after dawn, and I'm going to narrate what each of you experience at dawn. Yoshka, actually, give me 1 second. I need to pull up that NPCs. Is that where it is? Nope. As I mentioned, I kind of slightly rearranged my stuff, so I need to... There we go. Okay. Yoshka, you have been staying with Horan, the leather worker. He was the guy who was going to go off and make your studying the studs in your armors for a couple of you. He welcomes you in. He's still hard at work. He's probably going to work through the night getting all of your armors ready to go. But he welcomes you in and shows you to the bed where you were going to stay. It is first light. Dawn. Not dawn. The canopy has just begun to be illuminated as it normally is, and those pleasant yellow-green tones kind of filter through the town. You hear a knock at your door, and you hear Garriot's voice, Yoshki, it's about time. And go ahead. I think you're muted.
I'll get my stuff and go.
Okay. And you follow with him. He goes and it's like I said, it's first light. It's really early. He goes to Neno's house, does the same, gathers up, goes and finds Toll. Neno was staying with Urella and Orden, Urella the widow and Orden. And he goes and gathers up Toll and looks around a little bit. Inkatink, where did you stay? Previously, you had been kind of up on the scaffolding inside the town.
It depends on how long it took Inkatink to follow the spell that was active in the back of his head.
You went to the northern part of the town and you hit its wall. And it was still pointing you further north.
Oh, I thought Inkatink was going to leave to go follow that.
You mean leave in the night?
Yeah, he was presumably, because it only lasts for so long.
Yeah. You would have gone, it would have lasted for a couple of hours. You could have jumped over the northern fence of the town and.
Yeah, he would just
Okay.
be following it.
So a couple of hours later, you're no longer going north. The feeling wore off. What did you do then last night?
Turned around and came back.
Okay. So would you be found outside the wall, which would be the outside the north part of the wall where you left, or would you have gone down to the around the southwest side towards the entrance and be waiting outside the entrance?
I would have flown in through the hole in the top.
Okay. So you would use your stone for that? Okay, sounds good. So you you lift back up, come back into the town, and are there. Now, where did you wake up?
I had made myself a little bed in some scaffolding, and I basically made myself a crow's nest, which now that I say it, I realize how easy it is to fall into such dirty stereotypes. But anyway,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Garrett comes up and raps on the scaffolding of the town and says, young fella up there, it's time. And he takes all four of you back to the entrance of his house and a little bit mischievously walks in the front door of his house and pokes Diamondback with his staff. Wake up! With all four of you in tow behind him.
Yes. Good morning, master.
Well, I don't know about that, but good morning. And he pulls you out, and Belvari.
Master, I'm confused. What is my jacket made of? It looks like it's made of apprentice material, sir. I think.
Belvari is with you as well, silently as usual, walking behind the party. And you all go out to the front, to the center square. It's got, a cobblestone ground on it that they've been using for years. And Garriott takes a something like a wine skin, a water skin, and he pulls the loose-fitting lid off of the fluid, off of the barrel that you see there, and he just takes the skin and he dunks his hand under and bloop, bloop, it fills with some fluid. He brings it back out and the fluid is dripping off of the sort of goat skin of this water skin, and he corks it nice and hard and seals it, and you can tell that once the fluid has dripped off, the fur is dry still. It's not a watery fluid, it's something else, right? And it's the mist kind of overflows on it. And when the lid is off, that mist is flowing heavily out of the barrel. But when he puts the lid back on, even though it's not a secure fitting lid, it just is covered with that moss, the black doesn't flow out anymore. Somehow the moss that's on the sides of the barrel, kind of in patches, and on the top, seems to be keeping it in. Well, he holds the water skin full of this fluid out to nobody in particular and says, "You're going to need this."
I'll take it and put it in the. Go ahead.
Nino takes it and immediately wraps it in one of the bottom layers of her skirt ensemble. And she's blushing bright red because she actually stole some of it last night from the barrel. She just dipped one of her skirts in and put her skirt back on so it would be fully absorbed. And now that she realizes he's willing to give her some, she feels
Ashamed.
shame. Yeah.
She feels
Yeah, shame.
okay. I only asked you to repeat it because I had said it over you for the recording.
Yeah, she feels ashamed.
Yeah. So Garriott, if he notices or knew anything about it, doesn't seem to show that at all. And he smiles and he says, I'll tell you what, Yoshiki, now that Neno has taken the water skin, Yoshiki, when you get to your folks, when you find your family, you tell them, I don't know if they'll remember me or not, you tell them Garriott says, I do appreciate all your kind intentions towards us. Got it?
Yes.
It's important. Yoshki, listen to me. Don't forget what I said. Tell your family that I said.
And then right there, I think Inkatink just says it in exactly the same pitch, like it sounds like a recording of him saying it.
Good. And you,
Which
Yoshka,
sounds like what? Because I'm a human being and I want to hear it twice.
and Yoshka, you, sorry, yeah, we'll say it again. Don't forget to tell them I said I do appreciate all your kind intentions towards us. And he looks at you, and he's clearly communicating something, though you're not 100% sure what. And he says, I mean that. I really mean it. All right. It's time for you to go. Don't forget the instructions I gave you. I'll do my best to keep this here. And he pats the barrel. Keep it safe. Be an awful shame if it all got dumped on the ground, fell over or something. Be an awful shame. So we'll take care of it. Let's get you on your way. You got your foods. You got everything you need. Good?
Yeah.
I think so.
One last aside. This would have happened earlier, actually, but Diamondback would have, at some point, probably in the morning, gotten the book and put it back into its original ornate box.
He's
and
about to
closed
hand
the
it to you.
box. What, the book?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm just about to narrate handing it to you for a reason. But basically,
Okay.
you just woke up and walked out to the square. Like a minute has passed. And he's giving you the drink.
Okay.
And gets you out the door. So, and Garriott says, oh, better not forget this. And he hands you the book, and it's wrapped in a little bit of leather. It wasn't when you gave it to him. He's taken some care to put it in something. You can put it in your box, of course. But it has a wrapping of nice, soft pigskin around it. And it's got a little sash.
I think Gulb had it wrapped up in a bunch of leaves, like really thick, sturdy, tough, leathery leaves.
No, it had a box.
I think that's what he has wrapped up, right?
When you gave it to Garriott, it was just the book that was set on the table, and Garriott took it that way.
But I had taken it.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
I had taken it out of its box prior to
he
that.
Did. It was wooden and it was like bent.
Yeah,
and
it's
dented.
an ornately carved, but dented. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he hands it back to. He doesn't know who to give it to. He doesn't specifically remember who gave it to him, but he just holds it out like he did with the water jug. He holds it out towards you and says, "Don't forget your book."
I'll take it and put it back in its box and put the box back in my pouch.
Okay.
I guess.
Sounds good. He walks you to the door, and the townsfolk are all there, especially Urella and Orden are there to see you off. And Urella is just gushing with gratitude. She's bonded some with Neno over this time, but she is just especially thanking Yoshka and Diamondback because you were the two who came originally and are leaving, and Belvari, although Belvari seems to want none of it. He's just keeping a distance. And the other two of you, Toll and Inkatink, she also thanks. The townfolk are grateful and send you on your way. They open the door. Garriott comes out with you, goes to the sort of almost wicker-like cage that y'all had seen before. He uses some components, does this motion that you saw him do what seems like years ago, though it's been only a week. And the shimmering lights and glyphs around it sort of lighten, and he lets you in. He takes several gems, walks around the circle, puts them in their places, draws a set of shapes into the dirt, and then moves away. And a sight that you've seen before, The mist from the forest kind of pulls in and starts swirling and moving around. At first, just in a horizontal circle in the teleportation circle, but then it starts to take this sort of three-dimensional shape, and it becomes this sphere of mist. And in the mist, a tunnel forms, and you can see it going deep, deep, deep. This sphere is about 15 feet wide, but the tunnel is much, much wide, much, much longer. And you find yourself going into the tunnel. Sorry, you're looking into the tunnel, and you're looking down the center of the tunnel, no matter where you're standing around it, right? So it's as though the tunnel goes 50, 100 or more feet into the center of this 15-foot sphere. You've seen this before. Some of you have, at least. I guess Neno, Inkatink, and Toll have not, but the other three have seen this before when they arrived here. Well, actually, you know what? Only Gulb and Diamondback saw this before when they arrived here. So tell me, what do you do?
I'll go
I
in.
say to Yoshka, must we take this way? And you
No.
can see that Diamondback is like, last time that he was teleported by, as much respect as he has for Garriott, the last time he was teleported in that way was a very traumatic experience where he lost, he lost a friend. And so this is like, what's going to happen again? And are there going to be more dryads this time, like there were last time we were teleporting? And like,
No, but I will go first if it helps.
Nino grabs the tail of Yoshka's coat.
Inkatink grabs the hem of Nino's dress.
Come on.
He sticks out.
And I
He
step
sticks.
through.
He sticks out his hand up to Toll like a little kid, offering a hand.
I sure hope this isn't dangerous. Some of you seem to have some reservations. But I will take Inkatink's wing/hand.
It's like a claw, like a raven's claw or a reptile's claw.
Maybe like a crow.
He'll take
Listen
it.
here, you son of a...
Yoshka says, "Come on," and disappears into the tunnel.
And
I guess,
Diamondback. Sorry, go ahead.
if he disappears.
Yeah, Diamondback.
Diamond.
Are you going to
Diamondback-
bring up the rear?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Diamondback will follow them reluctantly and saying something like, "All right, I'll follow you, but if the DM says roll initiative in the next minute, I'm not going to be held responsible."
Fair enough. So is everybody in?
Yeah.
All right, and I've got your order as Yoshka, Neno, Inkatink, Toll, Diamondback, and Belvari.
And Bolvari's dog.
And Bavari's dog. Bavari and friend.
And we see a cougar standing at the edge of the forest,
With a single tear.
looking longingly. Should I come? He begins to take a couple of steps forward. No. He begins to back into the woods. He has a mate with him and a small animal.
That's right. So here's what happens. You walk into this. It is the tunnel seems to swirl all around you. From where you were, you could see it clearly receding like it was getting smaller almost, or it was receding into the distance in a short space. But when you're in it, it appears to be just a tunnel, a good 15-foot diameter tunnel that you're walking on. After 10 steps, you figure you're approximately towards the center of this smoky sphere. After another 40 steps, you're not sure where you are, and by 100 steps, the tunnel stretches out in front of you as far as you can see, and glancing back, if you do, it also stretches out behind you as far as you can see. There's a light at the end, and you hear Garriot's voice saying something to the effect of, "Oh, good journeys, good journeys." And then the light that you see at the end of that side of the tunnel fades to darkness, and it appears as though the tunnel closes back there. Now, looking around, the tunnel, the mist forming around you is wispy and thin, and you're in a large empty space. It's blackness. I mean, you may not be in a space. It's just blackness aside from the swirling gray mist, dark black gray mist. There's no light exactly here, and yet you seem to be gently illuminated. It's dim, but, you're aware of each other. You don't feel any imminent threat. Roll initiative. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen, Matthew, I was literally just standing on the ground when I was just taken into the arms and jowls of death. It will come for you. Do not be paralyzed.
So
walk, stand, death will find you.
So you walk, and you remember that Garriott told you that this, let's call it a tunnel, this teleportation circle, one place to another, is going to take maybe 8 or 10 days off your journey. So you're not sure how long you should be walking, but the tunnel does not seem to turn one way or the other. It seems to be going where it's going. And you're just continuing to walk. I'd like for, please, each of you to roll me a D20.
12.
3.
Okay.
Nat 1 for toll.
A 1 for toll.
And a 1
Aaron,
for
did you roll a
Diamondback
1?
as well.
Okay.
Aaron,
11?
what did you roll?
11? 11.
11.
Can't hear
11.
you.
Okay, so I got a Patrick and Matt both rolled a 1. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And I rolled a 3.
We'll have a roll off. So you go a little bit further, and Patrick and Matt, Toll and Diamondback, you feel like you're hearing something, or not exactly hearing, but not seeing either, and you just keep looking off into the distance. There's something about this place that feels, or, well, if you can even call it a place, it's hard to know exactly what it is, that seems something like familiar, but it's not, there's no detail you can put your finger on. It's just like you have a feeling almost of warmth or safety or home or something. You're not sure what. But you continue walking. Everybody's chatting and walking as you're going through. Y'all are all in a basically good mood, but nothing. There's nothing. There are no features of the place other than the mist, and you're just chatting and talking and walking. You've walked for what seems like it must be, another half hour. Maybe it's been 3 hours. It's hard to tell. Matt and Patrick, please roll me another D20. Just the two of you.
Seven.
I got a 1 again.
Nice work.
It's a one-sided dice, so.
You continue walking.
Awesome.
You continue.
Toll's about to die. Nothing else that can happen.
You continue walking and chatting for a time that it's not very long. It's a little while, and you maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and suddenly, far ahead of you, one of you notices, look, there's a light. There's something up ahead, and it appears to be where you're going. It looks just like the one you left behind with Garriott, but it's a bit of shimmering yellowish green foresty light. and you walk towards it. It only takes you another couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes to get there, and y'all all feel somehow like the concerns and worries that you had in the forest just weren't bothering you in this strange non-place. Anyway, as you get closer, you emerge and you step out into what's clearly a different place in the forest. And again, it's 8 or 10 days travel, so you look around and sense that you're under a very different great tree, no longer the willow of Miradau. You look around and you see behind you as you step out this swirling gray mist that you just came from, and the tunnel that you're looking at, nothing happened, everything seems fine, and it swirls and begins to close in a way that makes sense for how it opened up. It's unalarming, and you honestly feel as though things are better, like as though your time outside of the forest, or when I say outside of the forest, I mean as though your time not in your normal place was good for you. You feel refreshed and you ask each other, hey, is everybody okay? How are you doing? And Yoshka, you look around and everybody says they're doing well, and it kind of strikes you all at once. You know, the strange thing about that trip is that Toll's not here. And that's where we'll end this episode. Thanks for listening. You can get more detail.
Boy.
You can get more details about the world and the story we're telling at the starfallcollective.com.
You ain't lived at the table unless you've died at the table.
That was a 1 in 4,000 roll for those keeping track at home.
Nice work.
2 ones in a row, 1 in
2 ones in a
4,000.
row. You'd
All
have to roll a pair of d20s 4,000 times to get that roll.
Or
Isn't
once
it
if you're
400?
Patrick.
20 times 20?
400, yep.
No, that's 4,000.
Oh, yeah. 400.
Oh, derp. Well, no, wait, because you 20, 400, right? Whatever.
So, we will pick up
1,000.
next week
No, 4,000.
with our grand adventures in the forest, where you know not, but at least Toll also knows not. All right.